All right, welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Depends where you're located throughout the United States and all over the world. This is Lance Luke and Martin Pea um, bringing you Ask the Building Expert Masterclass webinar series. And we have a very interesting topic that deals with not just buildings, but health related issues. So, the topic today is severe health impacts due to wildfires. And as you know, we've had many wildfires all over the place, all over the world, all over the country, United States. The bigger ones, Hawaii, Lahaina, and California, they had some big ones. There also had some big ones in Oregon and other Colorado, other parts of the US. So we'll be talking about the health effects about wildfires. So this webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, which is a construction management firm located in Honolulu, Hawaii. And that's the only commercial I'm going to give, aside from promoting our website for our master classes. So it's been a lot of wildfires. In fact, too many. I lost count of how many, and it not only affects structures, but it affects people, health issues, and other issues. And we'll talk about that. So the big question is, how come wildfires are a growing health concern? Well, besides breathing the smoke and getting heat related illness or worse, right? There's a huge risk other aside from those issues, breathing the smoke and all that. So talk about um, wildfires, as you know, and you heard on the news frequently. Wildfires are increasing in frequency and intensity. The fires are getting more and more. If you look back 20 years ago, how many wildfires did we have? Or 30 years ago, 40, 50 years ago? It was almost unheard of, right? And then lately, it's just been crazy. It's like, wow, when is the next wildfire going to happen? So the frequency has been increasing as well as the intensity. It's not small fires anymore. These fires are burning down entire villages, entire cities or areas like Lahaina, Maui, and um, Palisades, Malibu in California. It's just getting out of hand. Wildfires are happening more often and burning stronger due to hotter, drier conditions. When there's a drought, guess what? All the greenery, all the grassland, trees, and all that just become dry. And there's a tendency of, if there's a small fire, now it can spread and affect a huge amount of acreage. So what this means is that more people are exposed to the fire dangers than ever before. So the wildfires are more dangerous now than they have ever been. Well, what's the problem? Well, we got climate change drives hotter, drier weather. Vegetation's turning brown and act as kindling when there's a fire. Fires are spreading faster and last longer, and larger acres, larger areas, and populations are affected. Before, the fires used to be in areas where not too many homes were located, and now it doesn't matter. The fire isn't selective. They're not going to pick and choose wherever it is wherever the fires start, that's where it's happening, whether it's in a populated neighborhood or out in the desert somewhere where, nobody's around. So that's the big problem. When there's a fire, there's smoke, and smoke spreads across wide regions, affecting distant communities. So a fire could be in one location, but the effects of the fire could be in other locations that are miles and miles away. Smoke doesn't stay near the flames. It can travel hundreds of miles, polluting the air in distant communities. Even those not directly threatened by fire are still at risk. And not only that, when you have high winds, if there's no wind at all, the smoke is kind of contained in a general location where the fire is. But when there's winds, heavy winds, the winds can blow the fire miles and miles away, even hundreds and thousands of miles away. So let's talk about some health risks and some medical things. Now, the caveat here is Martin and I are not medical doctors or anything like that, although we do a lot of research and we're concerned about health issues. We're explaining to you what we know from our own layperson standpoint and not coming across as giving you medical advice or anything like that. So, addressing health risks early helps reduce long term impacts. The sooner health concerns are recognized and managed, the lower the long term harm. Early precautions can save lives and protect vulnerable groups. So, let's say we live in a community and there's no fire going on in that area. There's still people who live in the community who have health related issues that can become, their health issues can become exacerbated and become worse because of the smoke from the fire. So a healthy person, relatively low risk, but a person that has medical conditions already have a higher risk of suffering from effects of the fire. Now, a normal person, healthy person, the short term physical effects of a wildfire or a fire in general, you have eye, throat, and skin irritation, coughing, shortness of breath, asthma flare ups. Uh, there surge in emergency visits during a fire event. And whenever there's a fire, sometimes I get called to go and check it out and do a story on it. And the fire's put out already, but I'm walking around, at the house or at the building, and I'm suffering from eye, throat, not too much skin irritation, but I'm breathing the remnants of the smoke and the ash and all that. And so my throat gets irritated, and sometimes I'm coughing, and I know I'm not breathing totally clean air. So that's the situation. Long term health risks, well, if you're exposed to smoke too long, chronic bronchitis, reduced lung function. If you already have asthma, you increase your risks, right, from asthma. General risks of heart attack and stroke. Children and older people have more serious conditions due to the smoke, breathing the smoke. Besides physical conditions such as breathing, hard to breathe, asthma, bronchitis, throat irritation, eye irritation, and those kind of things, there's mental health issues. And we want to talk about those a little because sometimes people forget. They think that, oh yeah, the person, got hurt because they either got burnt from the fire or they breathed in too much smoke and that kind of thing. But there's also mental health issues to be concerned with. Um, there's trauma and post-traumatic stress from fire events, anxiety, depression linked to displacement, people losing their home, their house burnt down, or um, part of their house got burnt, but they still can't move back in. They end up living somewhere else, some temporary shelter, and a huge emotional toll on families and communities. Although a wildfire or a regular fire happened years ago, people are still suffering from that. There's a lot of people that are still displaced from a year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago from a fire. So it affects people that way too. Community impacts and vulnerable populations at risk. Disproportionate impact on children, elderly, and those with chronic illness. So these are the people in the category that are affected the most from effects of a wildfire. Children, the elderly, senior citizens, and then those people in general that already have some chronic illnesses, like I mentioned before. The other category of people that are affected are your first responders, people who are outdoor workers, first responders. They face way higher exposure from the results of a wildfire. And it's not only firefighters, it's not only EMT, it's not only your medical people, it's also your police officers, any kind of law enforcement that gets involved and they have to go to the scene of a fire, right? Even if they have to park the car and they're um, blocking the road so people don't enter that fire zone area, they're still exposed because there's still smoke in the air. The other category is low income and rural communities with limited resources. So we're not talking about people who live in the big city and the city has money to put in money for all these financing, all these different programs, shelter, low income, and all that. So we have three different uh, categories of people that are affected as well as others. Now, if you're watching this masterclass webinar from outside Hawaii, I'm going to be talking about the Hawaii fires and the impact, but this also applies to anywhere in California, any location that had a wildfire and it affected the students, and then also anywhere in the world. Um, so here's the information. I'm talking about Hawaii fires, the impact on students in Hawaii. Wildfires disrupt learning long after the flames are gone, long after the fire's put out. What happens is students often miss weeks of school, even months of school, because of the effects of the fire, and the effects can last for years, many years after the fire. Lahaina schools lost valuable class time. After the 2023 wildfires, some students missed over 50 days of instruction, and that's a lot. Falling behind in math, reading, and other subjects. It's not really their fault. They couldn't go to school, maybe, or they didn't have transportation, or they were too shocked and depressed to want to go to school. So That's where the counseling would come in. Lessons from the Paradise, California fire. Recovery after the 2018 Camp Fire showed that rebuilding schools is faster than rebuilding academics. Students were struggling for years to catch up. So, although a new school is built or a replacement school, it's not like the students just go to class and now they're back to normal. So, studies have shown that it takes quite a long time for students to get back to the level that they were before. Um, the second thing is the balance of mental health and academics is critical. Children need emotional support to heal, but they also need tutoring, consistent routines, and strong academics to move forward. I know about that year that we had the fire in Lahaina. I was a judge at a um, educational sort of like a contest and all that, and I had two students that I was judged. They have to come up and act like they're applying for a job, and then I have to, critique them and give them ideas on, what to do from, um, direct eye contact, smiling, uh, how you're talking, not in a monotone voice, to prepare them for higher learning and that kind of thing. And two of the students that came to me actually lost their homes in the Lahaina fire, and I had to give them credit for even going on an airplane from Maui to Honolulu, putting on their uniform, dressing up like they're going to a job interview, and actually participating as a potential, uh, job applicant. And it was amazing how these students did it, how strong they were, despite um, the tragedy that happened. And um, I felt kind of bad, and but I had to, judge them using the criteria that was given to me. But I kind of slid in a couple extra points and stuff to, help them out. And I felt good about that. Let's see. Let's talk about steps to protect health and build resilience after wildfires. Remember the pandemic? We had all these masks, surgical masks, and all that. Then later on, after studies, they said, those masks didn't even work that good. You need to use the N95 masks. I got a whole bag of N95 masks that I carry with me, when I travel and all that, although I don't really use it that much. So here's some tips. When there's a wildfire or there's smoke around, use N95 masks. Have the mask available just in case. You use air purifiers. Um, if you need to close all your windows, right? And it's a double-edged sword in Hawaii because we have trade winds. So a lot of homes don't have air conditioners. So we open our windows. But what happens if there's smoke around? We have to close our windows and then there's no airflow, right? So if your house is air conditioning, crank your air conditioning up, close all your windows so that the smoke doesn't get in your house, right? If you have an air purifier, that's good. Um, Create clean air spaces in homes and schools. What that is a space where the smoke can't get. It's like a safe room in your house, but it's not subject to uh, smoke. It's like your neighbor's barbecuing on the side of your house and smoke's entering. You go on that side of your house and you close your windows and drapes, right? Curtain. Access mental health support resources, and normally the government, both city and county, state and federal, after a wildfire, they offer numbers you can contact, what to do, how to take advantage of the resources, where to go. who to call, and those kind of things. Strengthen community response and recovery plans. That's not as easy because you need the government to be involved, and the government has to be, uh, helpful and responsive. Protecting your family, property, and future. Prevention and preparedness reduces long-term harm. So the more you can prevent and prepare during an emergency, the better off you're going to be. So plan, pack, prepare, be ready just in case. Work with health and safety professionals, engage in community resources and resilience efforts. Now, this has to be done beforehand. All the prevention preparedness has to be done in advance, not after a wildfire has occurred. And that's what happened in Lahaina, Maui, where we weren't we weren't ready, we weren't prepared, we got caught off guard. And there's big lessons to be learned from that, and we're still learning. So that's kind of like the nutshell presentation. But before I get to the question part, I just want to do like a short recap. So it doesn't have to be a wildfire; it could be any kind of fire, and you want to prepare. You want to take steps. You want to be aware that the smoke can cause health effects like eye irritation, throat, nose. Um, you want to have a fast recovery, or if you're in that area, leave the area as soon as you can. Don't stick around because you're breathing all that bad stuff. So smoking, just if you're a smoker, you're breathing extra smoke. That's even worse. So um, coughing, uh, you have asthma, you don't want to stick around. I know one time it was New Year's Eve and I had bronchitis and I couldn't pop fireworks because that just added additional smoke. So, and I was kind of sad because all my brothers were out. I could only look out the window and see them running around laughing and you know lighting sparklers and all that. So kind of learned a hard lesson there. But then that was kind of a lesson to be learned. Like not everything happens how you want it to happen. There's sometimes where there's a roadblock and you just have to accept and deal with it. So the main thing, the message, takeaway is that whenever there's a wildfire or some kind of natural disaster, you want to prepare yourself, or if it affects somebody that family, friends, or relative, even if they escape, right, and didn't get hurt, they still could have mental issues going on. So the support system is very, very important. You know, they could look okay, but maybe they're not. It's sort of like I read a Facebook post about somebody that um, parked in a handicap zone. They got out of their car, and then another person said, "Oh, you don't look like there's anything wrong with you," without even knowing what happened to the person, right? So you cannot judge. The person could have served in the military. They're out there on the front line and they're suffering from some kind of illness. But when you look at them, they look normal. You don't know what's going on, right? So you can't really judge other people. So because you don't know the background. Anyway, Um, what you miss, I put this slide here. What you miss is because I'm saying if you miss any of our previous masterclass webinars we're giving, you really didn't miss it. Although you didn't attend live, they're all available on our huge website. And you don't need a Netflix or Disney account or Amazon Prime member. You can go to our website and pick and choose whatever you want, whatever interests you. We've done topics on almost every single building topic and construction topic, and we're still doing more. And you may ask, well, what you got coming up? Well, we got good classes coming up in the future, and some of them have been uh, designed especially because people requested, said, "Oh, you know what? Why don't you give a talk about this thing? Why don't you give a talk about construction defects or what happens when uh, people don't fix their buildings, or what about condominium issues, so we we tailor our talks to what, people want, what they request. So we're open to that. And you might say, well, how do we get a hold of your website? Well, it's right here, askbuildingexpert.now.site. And every day we're putting something new or tweaking something. And that website is constantly being updated. And we even have other websites within that website on different topics, such as painting, roofing, waterproofing, fire life safety, contractor licensing, um, Lahaina Fire. We have two websites there. So we try and really offer community information to help the community. That's what we're here for. We have a national expert blog. And let me tell you, if you don't learn anything from these blogs, you're not reading everything, because we put up information based on my own experience, and then also we do research on other things where I think it's of interest. So, and it's not only related to Hawaii or the US, right? Our information can be applied to anywhere in the world. And speaking of the world, remember recently there was this big fire in Hong Kong that affected like 7 high-rise buildings. So we not only talk about United States issues, we talk about global issues as well. So the reason why I brought up the Hong Kong fire is because I just published a book about the Hong Kong fire, and it's not called Hong Kong Fire, it's called Inferno by Design. And it's on Amazon, and I had it translated into Mandarin and Cantonese, although those versions aren't available yet. But the reason I did that is because there's millions of people in China that speak and read the language, and I wanted to make the book available to them so they understand, um, where I was coming from. And that's basically the first book, but it's basically the first chapter. As there investigations going on, there's going to be more and more things uncovered as to what caused the fire and all these things. So just letting you know about that. Um, Here's the our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site, that you can go and pick and choose what kind of replay of the webinars you want. Also, I'm giving a webinar about ancient buildings in Italy, Grenfell Tower, which is in London. That was a high-rise fire that um, affected a lot of people. And then I did one on Eiffel Tower and another one on uh, Eiffel Towers in France, and then we moved along to Spain, Barcelona, and I did a masterclass webinar on the Sagrada Familia, that huge church that is still under construction. So we try to cover um, different topics, all also around the world as well as the United States and Hawaii. And then I'm pretty sure the books are still available on the website that you can download for free. Um, to date, there's probably at least 80 books, 80, that were written and published, and they're on Amazon. But go to our website and snag it for free. And you're not limited to, just one book. If you want, and I would advise you to download as many books as you can. Just download the PDF and file it somewhere, because I don't know when um, they're going to switch to non-free books. So we just have to see. But that's just a little tip there. And I had this one comment on social media when I announced that uh, I wrote 70 books, and somebody posted, yeah, the reason why you did so many is you use AI. And then I responded back, I didn't use AI. I think out of the 80 books I wrote, five of the books I use AI. The other one I use MI. MI, what is that? I said, oh, that's my intelligence. So imagine me sitting down and just coming up with an idea of what I'm going to write about and start writing without using AI to help me. Now, we use AI to do grammar check and spell check and all that. But um, what we do is we take excerpts of our webinar, we have the audio translated into text, and then that's the start of the manuscript for a book, right? So I pride myself in coming up with that idea because I don't want to be constantly writing. I try to write probably at least an hour a day. Um, if Martin doesn't call me up to go lunch, then say, okay, I'm not gonna write a book during that time. Just go lunch. All right, we got a couple other websites, buildingcode.now.site and then constructionexperts.now.site. Go to our website. I don't I don't really remember the names of every single one of the websites, but take a look. And now we get to the Q&A part. You got questions, we got answers. And um, my contact information is on the screen. Um, if somehow you're not looking at the screen or you forget, just Google my name and something will pop up. Well, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. And then, by the way, if you're on our Zoom platform, thank you for attending. If you're watching on any of our various social media platforms, such as Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, you can post your questions or comments. And if we don't get it today, we promise to respond. We have a very good track record of responding to questions that come up. And it doesn't even have to be a question. It could be a comment. It could be something that you liked, or even something you didn't like, or maybe you thought I was going to cover some other topics during the master topic, but I didn't cover it or whatever. That's fine. We're here to help you, and we want to make sure you have the information to help you. And you know, I can tell you this, we do not have 500 people on um, watching this uh, live. Okay, we do not have 500 people, but we may have after when they watch the replay, right? But we're not worried about how many people are watching live or watching later. We're concerned that you take away the information. If one person can be helped, if one person can not suffer because they got information from us and they left the wildfire. I remember this guy, Luke, talking about we have to close our windows or we have to leave right away so we don't, have the effects of the smoke. That's what we're looking at. One goes to two, and then, it's like a pyramid effect. And we really like when there's response, emails or texts, or even on social media saying, thank you for your presentation. I learned something and I'm going to share it with my friends and family. That's what we're after, right? And that's the reason why we're doing this for free. We're not charging anybody. We just want to help out, and we want to provide valuable real life information, not stuff that we're, making up because we think it sounds good. We do a lot of research and make sure that what we're saying is true. And so far, I haven't had people say, "Oh, why did you say this? That's not really true," right? Although I think one of my webinars, I said something and then I had to backtrack because I made a mistake on some of the information. I forget what it was, but I have no problem with that. But I'd like to turn it over to Martin, see if any questions or comments came in, and then we can tackle that.
Yes, Lance, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Very
Okay,
good. You
okay,
probably polish your microphone and sounds good.
okay. Well, before I get to the questions, I just wanted to add kind of a comment that besides your 80 books and counting, there's also the actual websites. You have a lot of specialty construction and building safety websites that really provide a lot of even more detailed information in the various areas of building construction and building safety and building management. So I just thought I'd add that as a point. I mean, you always get big numbers, big number of books. You get big number of websites too. So
Yeah,
let
well,
me.
thank you for bringing that up. I mean, somebody goes, how many websites you got? And I said, I think like between 50 and 100. I don't know. I lost track. And they're like, what? What? Why do you make so many? And I said, oh, because I can. I don't, we don't make websites just to make websites, right? We make it for a purpose. Like for instance, there's a website, the Florida building collapse. We made a website for that has a book there. So um, if our websites aren't doing anything, then no sense make it, right? But people have commented that they learn from it. So, okay, so it's good. From roofing, concrete spalling, cast iron drain piping, all the big important things that I experience in my line of work. I put it out there to help people. I even give trade secrets away. One book called Nail It, How to Work with a Contractor. And I had contractors tell me, "Why are you telling them all this stuff?" I said, "Oh, because I can. I'm leveling the playing field. You guys are taking advantage of these people sometimes. So, I want them to know the same information that I do, so, they don't overpay or whatever." But good. Thanks for bringing it up.
No
Let's
problem.
tackle some questions.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, the first question that's come in here is How can families reduce immediate smoke exposure during wildfire events, especially if they don't have access to advanced air filtration systems?
Well, the first thing would be to close everything up and leave, right? Just leave the area and get as far away as the smoke as you can. The second thing is if you're at home and you can't leave, you close all your windows and you crank your air conditioning up. If you um, don't have any air conditioning, you close your windows and you kind of, gotta ride it out. So there's two options. One is you're gonna stay and kind of deal with the situation, and the other one is you pack up and get in your car and you leave and get as far away as you can until you get the all clear, and then you can go back. So um, that's just be prepared. It's like you have to have a safety plan. So if there's ever a fire in your house, every one of your family would know what to do and where you're going to meet, the meeting point, right? If you don't do that, then no one knows what's going on, right? So that's part of emergency preparedness. And so when there's a fire, you got to know what to do. You got to make a decision. Either you're going to leave or you're going to, stay and kind of um, ride it out.
Good. Thank you, Lance.
Sure.
Next question that came in here is what are the most effective long-term health precautions for children, seniors, and people with pre-existing conditions living in wildfire-prone areas?
Well, same thing like I mentioned before, given the fact that um, you have these pre-existing health conditions already, the smoke is just going to exacerbate and make your condition worse. So, um, like asthmatic, people are prone to bronchitis. Children and the elderly are affected the most, right? Um, when you're breathing air, you don't have the pollutants in the air. And uh, I didn't mention that whenever there's a fire, like a wildfire, there's the fire actually, is burning different things. If it's in the wild, it's burning the brush, it's burning wood, and the smoke is actually caustic, is poisonous from breathing. But when fires hit a house, there's so many things in a house that when it catches on fire, it's poisonous, like carpet, a lot of the wood burns and there's chemicals in the wood, paint, furniture, they say has the most chemicals when it burns and there's a fire. It gives us all this toxic gases and all that. So you got a lot of poisonous stuff in the air. It's not clean smoke. It's hazardous smoke. So that makes it worse to breathe. So a normal person breathing the smoke is going to get affected. Um, but if they're pretty much healthy, they're not going to suffer as much as like a child or elderly person or someone who has asthma or bronchitis or lung diseases and that kind of thing. So that's what makes it bad. So just stay away from the smoke. It's like um, a person smoking cigarettes, right? If they blew the smoke into a clean Kleenex or napkin, you look at it and there's all this, black stuff and all that. That's like poisonous stuff. So that's why I don't smoke. It's enough microplastics around and all that, and we try to be as healthy as we can.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you. Our next question here is, how should communities address the mental health impacts of wildfires, particularly for displaced families and first responders?
Well, that goes to the emergency preparedness. So before any event happens, like a wildfire, the government needs to take steps to, prepare the community. And likewise, the community has to um, obtain the information and be prepared. So the government can do their part, but then the community has to do their part also. If the government has seminars or issues brochures or has websites, it's up to the general public for public awareness to actually partake and absorb that information so that they know what's going on or what they need to do. So the government can only do certain things, but the people have to take advantage of the information and learn from it, and they'll be better off. So it's a whole uh, community that is comprised of the government and the community, and they have to work together. It's mainly preparing for what may happen. Hopefully, it's never going to happen, but if it does, at least you're more prepared than not. So just reach out to the government. Believe it or not, there's a lot of information out there. It's just you just have to, go and retrieve it.
Very good, Lance. Thank you. Our looks like our last question so far is, how can neighborhoods and property managers strengthen community responses, response plans, I'm sorry, to better protect vulnerable populations from wildfire smoke and stress?
Well, the stress part just goes along with that, and we're not mental health practitioners, but um, go seek professional advice. And like I mentioned before, take advantage of the resources that are available. Believe it or not, there's a bunch of um, information online. And you do a search online. You can use AI, you can use Google AI, or whatever. Um, that's one method. You can contact your local city, county, state, or federal government about different things. And there's departments that are available to help. In fact, there's a Department of Health that have information that's needed, um, and it's free. So you go to their website, you find out what you need to do, and you know use that information. It's all useful information that's out there. The problem I see is that the majority of the people don't avail themselves to the information that's out there. And usually that's the case with anything, but you know, it's like the library. You get a library card and you borrow a book, or you go and spend time, reading at the library. If you have the library card, it's free, but the majority of the people don't go to the library. Why? I don't know, maybe because they don't have time, or they don't want to read a book or whatever. It's so easy to just go online and find out information online, or buy a book online or whatever, or read an ebook, right? So that's not to say that that's wrong. It's just that the majority of people don't use the resources at the library, whatever they have to offer. So, Martin, are you still around? So, please visit our website and sign up for other master classes we're having. I don't have the list with me, but it's we have two masterclass webinars every month, and all the titles are on our website, and it's all live. What I mean is, if you click on any of the titles, you can register for now. So if you're interested in um, a topic that I'm giving in March or July, you can go to the website and sign up, and um, already will lock you in, and our system actually will email you the login information, when the time comes. So we have it all set up, waiting for you to use it. So, Martin, you have any last questions or any comments?
Um, no more questions for sure. I guess the message here is always the scout motto: be prepared, yeah, for
Yeah, yeah,
anything.
that's right. So the main message today is that um, there's different impacts regarding a wildfire, and it's not only someone's house burnt down. Um, it's mainly the message is to prepare, for a future one if it ever comes. Hopefully it doesn't, but there's other issues besides just um, the fire itself. So the impact can be long lasting, years and years and years. So um, I know we're nearing the end, running out of time. So if you guys have any other questions or comments, please post it on social media or send us an email. If you have other topics you want us to cover, we're open to reviewing that. We have a committee that reviews all potential topics that come up. Sometimes people have the idea and the topic really doesn't work, but um, we don't want to discourage you. We're open. It's just that some of the topics that are suggested, it's not along the lines of um, what our message is. Like I had a couple that were more political. Um, like, oh, you should do a topic about how Trump's spending all this money building this new ballroom because you're a construction guy, if people are getting ripped off or whatever. I said, hey, that's a good topic, right? But I try not to get political because it just, although I did write one book that's a political book, but I don't try to promote it or anything. People see it, they can read about it. Okay, so we're going to sign off. Thank you very much for attending. If you're watching live, if you're doing a replay, we thank you for watching. Hopefully, you gained some information, and then we'll see you next time. Aloha, mahalo.